Almost. There we go. Hi everyone. We will get started in just a second. I'm finishing up the wonderful marketing, and today we have a very special guest. We have McLean Kendree joining us today.
Hello.
And I know a bunch of you are pretty excited because his tutorials were some of the more popular ones of the summer, and they were actually the Pug Warrior is probably my favorite of the bunch. I think it's such a great little one.
People keep telling me about that piece, man.
It's so good. I think because there's like an overwhelming love for pugs just from people in general.
Yeah, gotta exploit that love.
Let's see here. In the marketing. Okay, now we're good. All right, so welcome to this Concept Cookie live stream. We do these every Wednesday at 2 p.m. and that's Central Time, and that's -5 GMT if you're outside of the States. And today, McLean and I will be doing male villains. And as with every live stream, if you have any questions, even if they don't pertain to what we're working on specifically, feel free to ask them, and I will make sure to kind of feed them to McLean, or if it's for both of us, we'll both answer. And we're just going to kind of have fun on this stream. So feel free to ask whatever it is, and let me think if there's any other news for Concept Cookie. Oh, just make sure if you're interested, we have the contest going on right now. You can win quite a bit of money, and it's on the Dark Cupid. So if you want to do a dark version of Valentine's Day, if you're kind of like me and Valentine's Day never really sunk in with you, feel free to enter that contest. And there's also the exercise on drawing the berries right now. And that's more of like a lighting and material study, but I think it's a really good one for those of you who have been maybe struggling with lighting or how to choose colors or using reference correctly. All right, so with that, McLean, you want to start sharing your screen and I'll do the same?
Yeah, sure. So should I talk a little bit about what I'm working on, or?
Yep. And I'm going to have you introduce who you are and what you currently do.
So I go right now?
Yep, go.
Okay, so my name is McLean Kendree. I'm working out of San Francisco right now. Presently, I'm employed at a studio called Massive Black. We're an art outsourcing house. We do like concept art and illustration for games and movies. Here on my screen, I've got a sketch of a little personal project that I've been working on and off. I'm planning on taking this and just kind of doing or just refining the face of this guy, just doing a portrait of him, rather than trying to wrap up the whole piece in like however long we have, like what, an hour and a half, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I do. That's what I'll be working on. And yeah.
I love the mouth. Now, does it have 6 eyes or is it just 2?
It's 6 eyes, but honestly, this thing is sort of whatever I do on this stream. Honestly, this concept will eventually change. I mean, it'll be fun for me to draw, but I've still got some questions about how this thing fits into the bigger project. So yeah, but the short version is like he has 6 eyes. I guess that's answering your question.
All right. All right, so you ready to get some questions into?
All right, cool.
Let's see here. We'll just do the basic greetings from Canada and looking up McLean Kendree's Cocoa tutorials. They look awesome.
The cocoa?
Oh, Concept Cookie.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry, sometimes we call the live streams Cocoa and Cookies.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So yeah, let's see. Here we got. Oh man, they're coming in too fast.
Oh, no.
Hi guys, second stream I've caught live. Greetings from the UK from me and my wife Laura. Well, hello.
Hello, you and your wife, Laura.
All right, let's see here. We got one from Dante that says, does it increase your learning speed to stay consistent from what you learn/study? For example, when I sketch during my lunch break, I'll be sketching thumbnails for an illustration. one day and then designing mass concept the next day and so on.
Um, Hold on. Repeat the question again. I'm not sure if I understand.
So pretty much, does it make your learning speed faster if you're consistent with the subject matters that you work on?
Uh, Maybe. I don't know. It's hard for me to say exactly. I feel like, well, I mean, if you're trying to get good at one particular thing, then I guess it just makes sense that you would practice that one particular thing. Um, but I feel like a lot of times if you're doing like, if you're trying to be a concept artist or an illustrator or something like that, you're going to tend to like end up drawing a variety of things. And you can focus on like, if you want to get good at like drawing cars or something, you can like really focus on that. But then that comes at the expense of whatever else you're not spending time learning. I can kind of get behind like focusing on some of the core things that you'll be using again and again, like perspective or anatomy or things like that. But besides that, I think it's also good to not neglect just like all the different things you could end up drawing. Um, like for this character, for example, I was doing some studies of I was just looking at pictures of slugs, looking at pictures of arthropods, the way that like arthropod like limbs can connect. Also,
What's an arthropod?
oh, it's like a catch-all term for crustaceans or arachnids or insects. It's all these creatures that have like that hard exoskeleton and jointed legs
Oh,
and
okay.
multiple limbs. That's an arthropod. So like, I'm looking at arthropods, and I'm also took a look at like gorilla limbs, and I've yet to really implement that information into this design, but trust me, I'll get around to it. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know if that really answers the question, but I hope that helps.
Did you feel like because where did you go to school for learning, or did you go to school?
I went to school in a couple different places. I started out at Ringling College of Art and Design down in Sarasota, Florida, and while I was there, I attended the Illustration Academy, which was helpful in a lot of ways. I thought both experiences were great, but I didn't quite get everything out of college that I wanted. So after a couple years of working, I saw that this Safe House Atelier was happening, and that was sort of like a new reincarnation of the concept art atelier that used to run back in the day. If you're not familiar with conceptart.org, it was one of the big sites back in the day. It sort of, I really feel like, jump started a lot of the communities we have now.
Mhm.
Anyway, they were putting that Safe House Atelier back together, and I was lucky enough to get on board with that. So I moved out here to San Francisco, and I kind of think of it as my grad school. So
Yeah. And you didn't really like focus on one specific subject matter? Like you weren't like, I'm only doing characters.
no, no. In fact, early on, I sort of like got it into my head that if you only focused on characters, then you were going to have more of a problem getting hired on at a studio where they need you to kind of be able to do a lot of different things. Like, I mean, chances are, if you're young and you're just starting out, and you go to apply at a studio, they probably already have their guy who's like insane at characters, or who's really insane at like one particular thing, and you're kind of, to me, at least starting out, it makes a lot of sense to hedge your bets and try to be aware of all the different things that a client might need from you, at least like in a studio environment. I feel like when you're I think with illustration, like freelance illustration, there's probably more room to kind of be specialized, or to have like a voice.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, because I think in illustration, I guess I feel like it's more about it's more about like having a voice and standing out from the crowd. Where in concept art, I mean, sure, you can do that, and I think that if you're high quality, like quality always stands out. But you're trying to fit into projects where lots and lots of other artists are also working on the project, and maybe it doesn't make as much sense for you to have like too zany or like unique or individual of a style when you have to account for everyone else who's got to like participate in the project.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think it's good for people to understand the difference between concept art and illustration.
Hmm.
Because I think too often, at least with some of the people I talk to, it feels like it blurs into one another, but like in my mind, they're very much separate.
Yeah, I agree. And I understand why like it can kind of like blur together for some people. I know like if I sometimes it can feel that way for me too, but just because like a lot of times the subject matter can be so similar, but the conditions of creating the work is very different a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here's a good question. So this is from Yaxel, and she is asking, what artist was your best inspirational role model?
Um, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Um, it's funny. Like there are a lot of artists I was really into in high school that would be I think kind of like embarrassing on a certain level to fess up to now. Um, I think recently the artist who's probably made like the most significant sort of impact on my outlook of what I think is cool and kind of what I want to do is this guy Jeff Smith. He's a cartoonist. He wrote and drew this graphic novel Bone, which recently,
Oh, I know that.
yeah, this
Is it the
Scholastic.
white character that's like very plain
Mhm.
looking?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. I loved it. I read it as like a 1,300 page like single graphic novel. But Scholastic has come in and colored these pages. They used to be, or originally they were in black and white, but Scholastic's come in, colored them up, and is selling them in like 9 separate volumes. So that might be the way some people have found out about it is through these Scholastic editions, but I don't know. I'm a black and white purist. Anyway, yeah, I really like what he did with that, and it's sort of I really liked the scope of the project, and I really liked that it was a single creator, and that sort of informed what's been on my mind for the last couple of years.
Do you want to create something that's like solely yours?
I do.
Hmm. Like a book project or a game or what are you thinking?
Um, I don't have the patience or maybe even the intelligence to figure out how to code and like actually make a game. So I would like to make a comic, and it's one of those things. Everyone's got like their little personal project that they always talk about, and
Yeah.
who knows if this thing will ever like actually manifest. Uh, but it's a nice little thing to work on. It's nice to like kill spare time with, you know.
Absolutely. I think everyone should at least have some kind of a passion project that they're working on
Yeah,
outside of work.
yeah, I agree.
Let's see here. Um, Usually I have someone helping me do the live streams, and he's usually the one looking through questions. And now I completely understand how hard it is to scroll and read all through all these.
I bet it is.
Oh, okay. So, hi, greetings from Denmark. How do you get color into dark and creepy paintings?
Uh, Dark and creepy. See, that's a tough one for me to answer because if you look at my work, it's actually very colorful, and I mean, I guess the key there would be to like if your image is very monochromatic, I would think the way to do it is just to hit like notes of color here and there. Um, really, to just be really judicious about it. I mean, like I said, this is a tough one for me to answer because like generally, like at least I don't see my own work as being dark or creepy. Um, this guy, I guess, maybe is a little bit creepy, but he'll probably wind up being colorful soon enough. Yeah, sorry, I don't know.
I agree with you on like if you are doing something creepy and you want to have colors that they don't just blend and turn into mud when you blend them together. I think having like
Mhm,
isolated either saturation or hues that really stand out, or having some lighting scenario where you can still keep it creepy and like maybe backlit or underlit in a way, but keep it
mhm.
more isolated so that the color it almost brings more tension into the creepiness factor.
Yeah, yeah. Like if the lighting scheme has some saturation, then you probably want to make it feel like alarming, or and that could be the direction of the light. Yeah, there are probably a lot of different ways you could achieve that.
Hi, this one's from Leah, and she says, "Greetings from Germany. I just started drawing digitally, and while I know stuff like perspective, colors, and light, my drawings look plain or unrefined. So our question is, what can I do to make them more detailed or exciting?"
Um, a friend of mine one time was talking about an illustration I did. Like this was back in school, and his sort of critique of it was that it was very plain and there wasn't really any payoff anywhere you looked in the image. Like there was a character and there was another character and they were in a setting, but everywhere you looked, everything was samey. Like the mountains were all very monotonous. There was nothing really. There were no areas of interest on the ground or in the trees or anything like that. And so, with that in mind, if you feel like your drawings have like nothing interesting going on in them, right away I would feel like maybe you should start really thinking beforehand about like what your focal areas are. Like if you're doing a character design, think about like where your areas of interest are going to be. Like of course you're going to want to have people look at the head. So spend more time thinking about like what kind of interesting sort of details you can add. I mean, it sounds like a matter of sitting down and really thinking about about what you can add, what you can like bring to the table that is interesting. At least I just from the way the question is phrased, that's what it sounds like. I mean, there's always like it's always really nice to look at a simple thing drawn well. So it never hurts to keep boning up on your fundamentals and um, keep practicing that because I mean if you can draw well, if you can draw beautifully, then that can make a very like mundane subject matter very interesting to look at. So yeah, those are like my two thoughts on that, I guess.
Yep, I fully agree on that. And I think be patient. And like if you really come to a point in your piece where you're either frustrated or you just want to get it done and you're like, well, I'm just gonna finish it up and call it done. I think you need to get out of that mindset where I don't know, maybe save it out, work on it on a different day or tomorrow.
Hmm.
But like I think having the mindset of I'm just gonna get it done. Like
Hmm.
sometimes that's when you rush the final polish, and sometimes the final polish is so crucial to really making your piece go from like if it was at like an 8, it can go to like a 9 or a 10 just with that final polish.
Yeah, I remember when I was still in school, hearing someone say that like most of the time students, one of the biggest things that'll separate like a budding professional from like someone who's been around and really knows what they're doing is the ability to actually finish a piece. Like so many people can get a piece like up to like 90%, 85 or 95%. Like they can almost get it there, but yeah, it really can be those like last passes where you go in and like finesse planes like in the focal area, or really like um, look at like the value scheme at the end, or like the overall like sort of like feeling with the color, and go through and really like make those like big, broad final adjustments. And they can be really subtle, but they're important.
Hmm. Yeah, fully agree. Let's see here. All right, this one's from Coldray5. They ask, "Hi fellas, any tips on effective atmosphere and tone maintaining, especially if you have to keep it through multiple works?" So how do you create an atmosphere and maintain it?
Um, well, I guess I'm going to interpret that question as like how would you depict like the same quality of light or the same sort of environment through multiple pieces? Um, Honestly, if you've got the first one, or if you've done the first piece um, and you like the setup and you want to keep it, I mean, for starters, you could just color pick off of your first piece. Like use the color picker tool and use that to sort of establish your overall color scheme in like in the beginning stages of the piece. Um, Additionally, like you want to be really mindful of the way light and color works. Like if you if you start the image and you've got a very cool light and the shadows are very warm, then don't forget or don't like ignore that you've done that. I mean, be um, be mindful of that dynamic as you move forward into other pieces. I mean, it sounds that part almost sounds sort of, I guess, obvious in a way, but I teach over at this college CCA here in town, and it pays to just go ahead and like say the obvious things because they might be obvious for you, but maybe um, maybe not everyone's considered that, or I don't know.
Hmm. Absolutely. Now, I don't know how often you come across this, McLean, but like people feel like color picking from reference is cheating, and I always try to break that mindset.
Yeah, I don't necessarily consider it cheating. I think it's not helpful if you're doing a study for the sake of practice and for the sake of learning. At that point, I feel like you're not necessarily helping yourself as much as you could. However, when it comes to like ripping something out for a client, uh, speed. I do think speed is really important.
Hmm.
Like time is one of those assets that you can't get it back. So yeah, I personally I don't really do it often, honestly, but I have no qualms with it. In fact, like I think I should be doing it more.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so if I feel that way about color picking from reference, then I definitely have no problem with color picking from your own work.
Hmm. Actually, it kind of leads into, I've just found another question that says, how do you use reference? How do you analyze reference when collecting stuff for a new concept?
I will usually collect reference in two stages. The first stage of reference is just like research. Like if I've got, let's say I want to draw like I don't know, some weird like pseudo steampunk looking character who's got like gloves that shoot electricity or something like that. Then what I might do is I might go online and kind of like seek out those sorts of references and sort of um, it's like if you're going to do something like that, like you don't necessarily want to just Google the phrase steampunk because there's so much imagery that's like been done over and over again, and it's like, come on, man, we've seen that so many times. So you should try to get creative with where you're looking for that kind of information. Like instead of instead of like steampunk, maybe you go look for uh, you look for old armor, or you just look for like old machinery, and look for the really unique shapes that occurred in that machinery. That's not just like, you know, like don't just stick a, a gear on a top hat. Like
Ooh.
really look for interesting, unique stuff that hasn't been done before. Um, if you know that, like, let's say it's a steampunk gorilla, then like, yeah, look for look for images of gorillas so that you can like kind of warm your brain up to what that anatomy is going to feel like. So that'll be the first stage that I'll collect reference in. A lot of times, the second stage doesn't always happen. But if I'm working on like an illustration or something, I might go and then once I've sort of done the sketches with that preliminary research reference, I will go and actually shoot my own reference for human characters sometimes. So let me see here. Let me see if I can find an example of that real quick. My site. Hmm. Okay, so this is an example of a character, or I'm sorry, an illustration I did that where I did like a lot of that research. Like I looked for weird sort of steampunky things, or honestly, in this instance, I didn't look for that reference. That reference was given to me by my art director, but same thing, sort of. Like it's basically the same stage. And then once I had all that in place, I had a coworker like actually stand and let me take reference of her, like for the face and for the hands and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I think getting your own reference is amazing to do.
yeah, and like it's kind of I didn't do it at first because I thought honestly I was just lazy. I didn't want to take the time. I didn't want to go find someone who would like participate in it. It was really just pure laziness. But I see a lot of artists that I really like use it, and I finally got to the point where I felt like, well, if it's good enough for them, then I guess it's good enough for me. Um, Maybe one of
Did you
these
see an
days.
improvement in your work then?
What's that?
Did you see an improvement?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. It's the sort of thing where yeah, you only stand to get better by like informing your work. I feel like if drawing realistically is your goal, then having reference can. Well, I want to say it can only help, but I guess there are instances where it can hurt if you introduce it too early into the process. But anyway, no, reference is good. I think it's everyone should do it if you feel like you're having problems with like human anatomy or anything like that.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Oh, all right, this is a good one. I tend to get angry with myself when I can't get something to look the way I want it to. How
I
do you
feel you,
keep
brother.
yourself how do you keep yourselves from rage quitting constantly?
Um, I don't necessarily take any steps to do that. I just feel like I'm a naturally patient person. I know that I have friends out there that would laugh at me if they heard me say that, but no, I really do. I really do feel like I'm a patient person, and I think you have to be in order to just like sit there and sometimes fight with an image, which really is just you're fighting with yourself for hours on end. Sometimes like maybe don't think of it as rage quitting, just think of it as you need to take a break and clear your head. Try not to just try not to think of yourself as being mad and just calm down for a minute, come back later with fresh eyes. Looking at something like after you've been away from it for a while is very helpful a lot of the time. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. um, yeah, I
Definitely.
don't know.
I think the best thing you can do is like maybe just take a break from it.
Yeah, you got to take breaks for sure.
Because I've definitely been there where it's like you're pushing through a piece and it's just not working and you're getting frustrated. But I totally agree that like you have to be patient in this
Hmm.
industry, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because if you expect all your pieces to like come out right the first time, every single time, I mean, that's not plausible at all.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that's realistic. At least like when you're starting out. Um, I have a lot of friends that really can do all this stuff so well. They can belt this stuff out without the reference. They can do it. They can do it without reference quicker and better than I can do it with reference. But
Hmm.
that's because they've really. It's for a lot of things. First of all, I think it's because they're intelligent people. I think it's because they've really invested the time, and they're just interested in it. You know what I mean? Their interest in the process of drawing sustains them through those long hours of working on images and practicing and getting better.
Totally agree.
And I'm glad we're on the same page so often.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one because I feel like I'm asked this a lot, and it's from Vincent. And he says, "How do you find friends that are from artists?" And also greetings from Sweden.
How do I find friends that are
Artists.
oh a lot of my friends really all of my friends are either I feel like coworkers or like either current or former coworkers or artists that I went to school with. So, that's not to say that you like absolutely have to go to college or something to have art friends. That's certainly not the case. But you know, I'd say like go to industry events, go to Massive Black do workshops from time to time. You can go out to any of those. There's an event over in Europe called Trojan Horse Was a Unicorn, which is like a similar sort of workshop. And from everything I've heard, that one is great. Just sort of look out for those sort of events where you can go and meet people like that. There's a thing I go to every now and then called Spectrum Live over in Kansas City.
Yes. Are you
Um,
gonna be there this year?
I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I haven't decided.
Okay, I'm for sure going to that.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe that's one more reason for me to go.
I
Um,
mean, it's awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The times I've been were a lot of fun. Um, yeah. So. And if you can't make it out to events like that, then like there are always like social networks like Facebook or oh, what else is there? Facebook is all I use right now. I use Twitter, but that's not really like an art network. Um, anyway, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities out there. It's tough to make like good friends just online, but sort of like participate in the community. And then if you ever make it out to any of these events, then maybe you have like a basis for talking with some of these people that you've interacted with online. Like, um, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe you don't want to walk up to someone and be like, "Hey, I'm username blah 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 blah. Remember me?" Because that doesn't always work out so good. But still, just being like aware of the events and being aware of like what's going on in the community can sort of help you approach potential friends, I guess.
Because it is tough, and I feel like as artists, sometimes we are more alone than maybe we prefer to be. But I feel like that's because when we work, oftentimes it's because we're just by ourselves. And I
Hmm.
know a lot of people ask me how did I meet my group of friends, and you're right. It's through school. It's through these big conventions or whatever, and you kind of have to like throw yourself into a mix of people that are interested in the same thing that you are. You can't just expect them to come to you.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be proactive about it.
Hmm. Let's see. We got one from Morgenstar. They're asking, "Hello from Moscow. Question is, how do I start with digital drawing? Recently, I bought a digital tablet, and I just don't understand what I'm doing or what I need to draw to improve. Everything that I draw, I hate. Sometimes I just want to give up."
Hmm. what to do or how to draw. Okay, here's the thing. I used a tablet for about I probably it took me a few years honestly to get completely comfortable with drawing like on a tablet. Um, a lot of times during that period, I would just I would just draw on paper and scan it because like that's what I was more comfortable with. Now, if you want to like kind of fast track getting better at drawing in Photoshop, then the only solution is just to draw more in Photoshop. You know, we only I feel like we only get better at the things that we practice. So like that's sort of the tricky thing with like any sort of form of practice is like if how do I put it? If you only ever practice like drawing like geometric, like weird anatomical studies, then you're going to be really good at that. And hopefully that'll apply to your anatomy in a fully painted illustration. I think it will, but how do I put it? I don't know. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here.
Yeah.
The the short version is like just keep practicing. It can be demoralizing when a tool doesn't do what you want it to do. Maybe you should try like finding a process that works for you, like a more like foolproof drawing process. Um, like for example, like I have a sketch. Like I don't know if the viewers can see my screen very well, but I've got a layer 1 right here, which is the original loose kind of sloppy drawing turned down in opacity. And I do that stage because I find it personally difficult to jump right into like a final line drawing without any sort of base when I'm working digitally. So I like to keep things messy, and it allows me to make mistakes early on. And once I sort of have that in there, I can go in on top of that and really like carefully think about what I'm drawing and refine my lines and refine my shapes. And by separating it into like 2 steps like this, or sometimes more steps, it makes the process a lot less painful for me. And it also helps that I've got like years of this under my belt.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, I felt similar like when I first started. Like I think it's a natural feeling. If it's like really got you down, try not to let it do that. I think it's natural, and I think that with practice you'll just work through it. Honestly.
Yep, I agree. And I think
So.
if you just bought your digital tablet, I call it a 3-month hump, and that's the hump I'm getting used to the hand-eye coordination of now looking at your screen rather than looking at your hand and what you're specifically drawing. Like if you're coming
Hmm.
from like a traditional background, you're always looking exactly at what you're doing. But when you
Hmm.
translate to digital, it's that weird process of like having your hand and eye coordinate with each other, and then also you're trying to learn a new software. So it's like it's hitting you twice. So not only do you have to learn this new skill of hand-eye coordination, but you have to learn a new software. And if you're using Photoshop, that can be quite intimidating, especially when you first open it up. You're like, what am I doing? What are all these toolbars and all these sub-menus?
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the biggest struggles actually, was not the hardware but the software. It's really taken me a while, years, to feel like I wasn't fighting the software anymore. Like now I want to do something and I can just do it without really thinking about it. But for the longest time it was oh, I want to do a thing. Now I've got to like, oh, what was it? Was it this? Do I which menu do I open, or how did that work again, or I don't remember the hotkeys, et cetera, et cetera. So something that like you want to happen instantly, it takes you about 10 seconds to figure out. And 10 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time, but you've got to do those little actions like constantly while you're working. So the time adds up, and it just feels exasperating. And Like there's so much energy that it takes out of you that's like not spent drawing. So yeah, I completely understand the feeling, and I think it's um, just a matter of investing like more time into it and just practicing it.
And like I don't know if you do this, McLean, but like I feel like I use my left hand just as much as I use my right hand.
Yeah, I mean, like in two different ways for sure, but I've always got my left hand like hovering over the keyboard, like hitting shortcuts now.
Yep.
And I didn't used to do that, and it took longer to do things without shortcuts. So yeah, definitely, like I recommend learning the shortcuts or learning the hotkeys as soon as possible.
Let's see here. Okay, this one's from Benedict. He asks, how important are challenges for you? And how important is it for you to do something new compared to further the knowledge of something you know?
Um, hmm. Well, it's a weird question. Like in theory, like all that stuff is very, very important. Now, to be honest, like in practice, how much do I do that? Is sometimes a different story.
Hmm.
I I don't know, this sounds like a terrible thing to say, but honestly, like since I've like started working more and since I've like gotten to the point where like I know that what I'm doing art wise can sustain myself like financially, I uh, I end up spending more of my spare time like practicing or like researching other things. Like I still like to do studies for myself from time to time. I think it's like great practice to like uh, uh, stay sharp in painting, just to like paint things from observation and sort of remind yourself like how light and form works. But I look at other stuff too. Like sometimes like you have to check out things besides art to sort of keep yourself engaged. Like, I've been just for fun reading books on like screenwriting for the past couple of years, and that's like sort of my hobby is learning about that, and that actually ends up taking up a lot of time that could be spent drawing or painting. And I think that like once you get your art to a professional level, then it's okay to take time out and like do these other things. So I guess the answer to your question is like I do think it's important to learn other things, to study other things, and those things don't always have to be art.
Yep. Yeah. Like I even think that pertains to me when you're saying like you feel like you're branching out. I'm doing now. I'm getting into like casting and molding sculptures,
Oh, that's cool.
and I find that like really interesting. And I think as long as you're actively engaging in something, I think that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good sign to see someone like curious about stuff and like going out of their way to learn about new things. I think that's just a good trait to have. And whether it's like learning how to draw things better that you didn't know how to before, or whether it's like something like totally different. I mean, you can always turn around and apply that same inquisitiveness to your art.
Hmm. Let's see here. Okay, here's a good one from Lars. Greetings from Denmark. Currently applying for a school and in the process of finishing my portfolio, but how do you handle the stress of meeting deadlines? I have no idea how I'm standing right now, but I'm slowly deteriorating over here.
Mm. Um. Well, okay. It sounds from the way the question is asked, it sounds like you're, kind of just starting out. If you didn't sort of get a taste of how terrible these deadlines can be, like during school, then you're getting a taste of it now. And I used to freak out about deadlines. Honestly, like I used to stress like hardcore on every single one, and it never really goes away. It just sort of like becomes this sort of like dull ache in the back of your mind. Like it's not as sharp and severe. Like you're used to it. It'll uh, but it'll get done. You know, like you you get used to sort of budgeting your time correctly, so that like, yeah, there's this terrible thing, but like you've done this kind of work enough times to know how much time it's going to take you, and you can see ahead in your schedule like, okay, this is when I'm going to do these things, and you know, if there's an emergency, then maybe like I've got this other sort of block of time where I can uh, you know, try to like avoid crises.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just get used to it. You know, if you're responsible enough to be like, you know, meeting your deadlines now, then then yeah, I don't think you're in too bad a shape. I think I think learning to work more quickly, like finding like as many shortcuts as you can, is important. Like all those things that people say are cheating, as long as you're not like stealing other people's work, I say like, you know, take another minute to like revisit those and see like, you know, can using like, you know, photos in certain part of my painting, can that like, you know, help me get things done more quickly, like when I'm really in like a pinch. Um, you know, it's like I didn't get into this business to do photo collages or like anything like that, but uh, you know, sometimes you just got to get a job done, and if that deadline is creeping up on you, then yeah, really think about different ways to speed up your workflow.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think the whole idea of working faster helps big time.
Hmm.
And like stay zoomed out. So when you're working on your pieces, I think too often artists zoom like super close and like highly detail one area, and then when they zoom out, it's only like 5% of the entire piece.
Yep.
So I think it's better to build solid foundations, and then you can build on top of that because it's harder to do it the reverse.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Let's see here. Hi, here's someone asking, their name is That Dang Space Guy, and they're asking you, did you have to study animals and insects for your monsters?
Um, well, I didn't have to. Like, no one ever made me do that. And no one will probably make you either. But I do look at things. Like, I do look at reference. I do look at like the way that insects are like segmented or whatever. And well, you know, I may not do like tons of studies of them exactly, but like I really do like to like look at that stuff and sort of get those uh, sort of systems or shapes or whatever like fresh in my mind before I go trying to draw something like this. So um, yeah, I guess I mean yeah, sure. I think looking and studying like things from real life is I think that's important when you're drawing stuff from your imagination. I think that even if you're like drawing like a weird space creature or something, uh, having like shapes from real life to pull from will sort of help your viewer like sort of like better understand like what you're trying to do when you design something.
Hmm. Let's see. All right, this one's from Leah. She's asking, what would you put in a portfolio that is supposed to showcase your talent? Only the one thing you know you're really good at, or a wide variety of stuff?
Depends on who you're showing the portfolio to. I think that if you're trying to apply to like a studio, um, well, let me back up a second. Um, First of all, I don't think you should ever put anything in your portfolio that you know you're terrible at, but you feel like employers want to see. If you're ever in a situation where like, ooh, this is really bad, but I know like I drew this car real bad, but I know that like a studio is gonna want to see how I draw cars. Don't include that because they want to see that you can draw cars well. So it's better to just not say anything at all with that bad drawing of a car. Now, if you've got things that are like not quite your specialty, but they're competent, and you're applying to a studio where you might be expected to sort of draw a lot of different things, then yeah, you probably want to include that in your portfolio to let them know that that you're more than just a one-trick pony. Now, if it's a portfolio that you're going to be showing for like illustration clients, I think I even sort of started on this earlier. I feel like with illustration, a lot of times, your art director might be just more interested in like just what you do. Like they might be less interested in like you being able to copy other people's style or you being able to draw like lots and lots of different plants or different treasure chests or different like vehicles. You know, they really they're gonna hire you for like the thing that you do. So yeah, it depends on what you're going for,
Mm-hmm.
who you're trying to work with.
And I fully agree with the don't include it part that you were talking about, where whenever I do portfolio reviews or critiques, I always look at the artist and I judge their portfolio based on their weakest piece. Because
Yeah.
in my mind, that tells me that their visual eye feels like this piece is just as strong as their other pieces to include in their portfolio. Now, there will be stronger and weaker ones in every portfolio, but if there's one that really stands out to me as like not that great, then that tells me that artist may not see what I'm seeing and why it is that bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if you've ever done this, but the question is from the Solid Moose, and they're asking, should you try to speak to artists you are inspired by? If so, how do you go about doing it?
Well, I mean, what's the point? Well, what's your goal? You know, like, are you just are you reaching out to them for like feedback or for like industry advice? Um, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like I guess nobody minds like a kind word or anything like that. So I guess it's not like the worst thing in the world you can do to like tell someone like, hey, I really like your work, etc. But I feel like a lot of times that can get sort of like sometimes sort of people lack the social finesse to sort of like do that and like keep it brief enough to like not be awkward for the person they're approaching. Um, I don't know. Hopefully that's not like too cynical of a view on it. Um,
That's true because like those artists are, if they're acclaimed, like they're busy. They're really busy.
right, right.
It's
And
hard for that artist to sometimes get back to everyone.
yeah, it is. And you know, I mean, depending on just how popular the artist is, like I've known some guys who had like kind of actually like a weird stalker situation with people that were fans of their work, and like it would get really uncomfortable. Like you'd have people showing up like to the office where they worked, like sending them mail to their like personal like address and stuff like that, and it just like
Oh, whoa.
you know, yeah, and so like the question is a very innocent question, you know, but I hear the question and I think of these things, you know, so like I kind of have a weird knee-jerk reaction to it where like, you know, I don't know what to say. Just like if you're gonna do something like that, be mindful that like if you're gonna approach like this total stranger, like they know nothing about you. Like you could be the next bad guy for all they know. So just be really sensitive to like to that sort of thing. You know, don't be a weirdo. I guess that's my answer to the question.
Mm-hmm. Hi, here's a question from RBK Ninja. What made you want to go into the artist field? Like, what made you all, yes, this is what I want to do for a living and pull all my focus into? I seem to have so many other interests that I feel overwhelmed at the prospect of singling out a certain one.
Um, I don't think it was ever really like up for debate with me personally. Like when I was young, I would just draw like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all the time. Like that was just my thing. I'd draw Batman and dragons and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and that was really it. And like that's all I ever wanted to do when I got home from school. Is I just wanted to draw stuff. I never, I never really like took to other sort of hobbies. Like sports definitely never really clicked for me. Yeah, I don't know. I never really like made a conscious like decision that I was gonna like be an artist. I guess like when I was in high school, I started like learning that there were art.
Oh no, we lost McLean. All right, well, I'm going to work on getting him back. But in the meantime, I guess I'll just keep answering the questions and work on my little villain guy here. So I'm kind of the same with McLean. I've been drawing all my life. And then even when I was younger in grade school, I don't know if I have this weird managing type personality, but I kind of recruited 6 of my fellow classmates when I was in like 4th grade to essentially work for me. And we started to work on a video game. And that kind of lasted to like 7th, 8th grade. And that game was a story that I've kind of came up with and I've had in the back of my mind ever since. And that's the book that I'm writing right now. It's Swordplay. And that's the one that I'm always talking about on these streams. And hopefully one day I'll actually get it done. Oh, let me talk to McLean for a second here. All right, so someone's asking, Tim, can you give more of an explanation on how to go from line art to colored line art to rendered over line art? So I guess what I'm doing with this villain, right now I'm in the process of color picking, and it's kind of difficult for the stage that I'm at right now, where the character that I'm trying to create is a very gaudy villain, so someone that's over the top, and I still want to have like a sense of refinement to him, a sense of like class, but it's really hard getting the senses of like a high class and gaudy because they're almost opposites. But I'm trying to make a nice mix, and I'm not really finding it right now. But in terms of doing like the line art, so you can see here, I did my initial line art sketch, and I felt really good about it. I felt like it kind of nailed down the personality I was thinking of in my head, and then I just bolted right into color. And then I thought of maybe he would be like in this winter world, and he's surrounded by crystals and diamonds and things that are very vanity driven, and he'd be very not facetious, what's that word, just like he's very full of himself but in a proper manner, but I do want that little sense of crazy to be there too. So I think the smile definitely gives the crazy, but I think I want to do what I've done with the previous villains of where I don't show their eyes. So I'm like trying to figure out like what kind of a shape would be the best. I might do triangles, but I got to figure out how to do it. And this also goes back to like shape language and what does your shapes mean about your character. And when you're doing villains, I always try to think of angles and edges. Oh, let me go ahead and I'm going to try to give the link back to McLean. So then when you're doing your line art and you're trying to figure out how to do your color, so usually I'll make a new layer underneath, and then I'll use my line art as kind of guidelines. And you can imagine like when you're a kid and you're given those colored art books or like those Disney fill in the blank. I don't know if you guys ever had those, but I definitely filled out a lot of books in my childhood. And I kind of treat it the same way, but I don't want you to feel like you have to stay like confined to lines. Like it's okay to go outside of your line art at this point. You don't want to be focusing on detail. And then from there, I'll usually try to refine it enough where then I can hide the line art layer. And then that's where the third one comes in. Oh, looks like we got McLean back.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Not
It's
sure
all
what
good.
happened.
I was just talking about Lineart and stuff. And I assume you have a similar process of how do you color? Do you color under your Lineart? Is that how you do it?
Well, what I do is kind of yeah, well, yeah, I do color under the line art, but what I'll do is, let's say I draw a thing. So here's the thing that I'm drawing, is this like smiley face. Um, what I'll do is I'll make a layer underneath that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the pixels in this smiley face. So I'm going to hold Control, and the smiley face is layer 5 over here. So I'm going to hold Control and click like the pixel icon for that. So click, and now you can see it's selected all the pixels of the line work. So now with the layer underneath it, I'm gonna pick, what am I gonna pick? I'm gonna pick yellow, sort of fill that in. So now when I drop the color or drop the opacity of the line work, there are these pixels right underneath it that are exactly the silhouette of the line work. So then I can go in and like fill in the body of the silhouette. And what I'll do at that point is right-click the line work and create a clipping mask on top of now what is my base silhouette. So even if I turn my line work off, my silhouette is still exactly what my line work was. From there, I'll just keep making new layers that are functioning as a clipping mask. So, you know, I can shadow, and it doesn't matter that that my brush marks sort of leave the border, because since it's a clipping mask, like I won't see it. I'll only see the marks that overlap that base silhouette. So I'll just keep doing that, and then eventually, if I want to make it painterly, then I'll start working on a layer that's still a clipping mask, but it's on top of the line work. So let's see here. Yeah, so if I want to start rendering stuff that sort of covers up the line work, then that's what I'll start doing. So yeah, that's like the short version of how I use line work with my drawings, or with my paintings.
Hmm.
Kind of what I'm doing now.
I like your smiley face.
Yeah, we'll leave him up there.
So in a sense, because someone's asking what is your normal illustration process, and I feel like that kind of is a good overview of how you do your entire illustration.
Yeah, I mean that sums up pretty well like what the object to object rendering process is like. Now, as far as like actually composing an illustration, you know, there's always going to be like a stage of doing thumbnails and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely like the rendering process is what I just did most times.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. All right, so Roro says, "Hi, this is the first stream I managed to catch. I was wondering, are art challenges both on Tumblr and DeviantArt, like the month-long or week-long challenges, good for learning how to keep up with deadlines?"
They can be. I mean, I don't participate in a lot of like challenges myself, just because you know I've got, you know, my challenges are my professional deadlines. But yeah, I don't see why those couldn't work as practice for deadlines.
Yeah, I totally think they're great, especially if, well, I think that the artists that do really well in the industry are really great at self-managing, and
Hmm.
they have a good sense of their time. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to do it, and usually in my mind that tells me what it actually means is I don't manage my time well.
Yeah, I mean that can definitely be the case, and yeah, I mean if you want to do something, you'll make time for it, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things like you make what you want a priority.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, someone's asking me a specific question. So they're asking, Tim, what was the most important step or moment in your journey towards becoming a great artist that switched a light on in your mind and showed you what you've been lacking, missing, getting better, or getting wrong and taught you how to be better? So I guess I kind of want you to answer this too, McLean, but when I never had like an aha moment where I felt like I became so much better. I felt like it was one of those things where when you look back at your previous work like a year or two ago, you definitely notice a difference. But like in that process, I never had like this big jump. Now there might be like little ones. I definitely noticed like, oh wow, like that was the best piece I've ever done. Like when I finished and I'm like really proud of it, I do feel like I did make a small growth. But I always compare it to things that you can represent with images. So I always think of it like a staircase.
Mhm.
So sometimes you might notice you might take a step or two, but you'll never just like climb a whole staircase and be like, oh, okay, like I just did that just now. I think
Mhm.
you climb a few stairs at a time, and then when you look down after like a year or two, you may have climbed like 30 stairs, and you're like, wow, that was a big, leap that I just made.
Yeah, I'll agree. I mean, I feel like my aha moments are they're not really moments so much as like, wow, that was a good 3 months, or
Yeah.
like normally I don't like experience those sort of things. I feel like, I mean sometimes, but like I feel like the biggest instance I've had like that was actually at the Safe House Atelier, which I talked about earlier, doing a cast drawing with Carl Dobsky. Cast drawing may not like sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but it was really helpful to me in terms of like beginning to just intrinsically understand like how to portray form. Um, I would have moments where I'd be doing these cast drawings, and then I'd go home that night and be working on my freelance because I'm still freelancing, gotta have money. Um, and yeah, I'd be like painting something, and I'd still be in like that cast drawing mindset, and like suddenly it's like, oh, like I get form now. That was the most aha moment I've probably had in my life, where those instances where like, oh, I understand something that I haven't understood for the longest time.
Yeah. Or like I don't know if you ever had this like when you learn something in Photoshop where you're like, oh my gosh,
Oh
I would
yeah,
never
yeah,
been
I'll
able
have
to do
those
that.
too.
And then you look back at like all your previous pieces and you're like, oh my god, why now I have to apply it to everything that I, I
Hmm.
did.
Like, oh, I just have to like manage my layers. Who'd have
Yeah.
thought? Who'd have thought?
Sometimes it goes overboard. Like I remember when I first learned like what overlay and multiply blend modes did.
Hmm.
My next few pieces looked like awful color burn.
Yeah, yeah. Some of that stuff can get harsh.
And you have to like learn how to use it subtly rather than like dramatically.
Yep, 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 yep.
Let's see here. Yaxel's asking, how do you choose your color palette?
Well, um, glad you asked that because I'm at a point now where okay, so I this character is not going to be blue, or he's probably not going to be blue. What I'll do a lot of times is like let's just say he's going to have like a pattern, like some markings. So this is a great time to have asked that question. These are very sloppy markings, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's terrible, but it'll illustrate the point. Um, hold on, I'm going to do one more eyes. Ooh, that's gaudy. Okay, so couple things to consider. If you have all your different like local colors on different layers, then that makes it super easy to bring up the hue saturation slider. And let's say that I want those green marks to be lower in saturation and brighter, and I can do that really easily. And now, that's so much nicer. Like now I don't feel like I've got too many colors of uniform saturation competing with one another. I feel like a lot of times with your color palettes, you can go one of two ways. You can have it one of two ways that might not look great. You can have like too many different things of like uniform saturation. Like a second ago, Control Z. Yeah, so that green is I feels like about as saturated as that yellow, and while the blue is pretty dark, the blue is also like pretty saturated to my eye. So if you can reduce, oops, hold on. If you can reduce the amount of things that are competing for your attention with saturation and sort of like limit it to one or two elements, that'll go a long way in terms of making the color palette as a whole like sit nicely and feel sort of like harmonious and uniform. You can also go the other way, where everything is sort of monochromatic and desaturated, and there's like not a hit of color anywhere. Now, sometimes that looks cool. Like you can do a whole piece that's sort of like dark and moody and monochromatic, and sometimes that's cool. But it can also be boring depending on like the mood you actually want in your illustration. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I find that like having a lot of colors that sort of like get closer to gray, but have like different hues, can sometimes be like a nice look. Let's see here, saturation. So yeah, this guy is on the desaturated side now, but I think this is more something I feel like I could work on top of and actually have something that feels like less cartoony and more like down to earth color-wise. Not that our space guy is down to earth per se, but haha, jokes.
I like that. Yeah, guys, that's another thing with young artists. I feel like they always try to go too saturated, and oftentimes that almost kills their piece because then it either creates color burn or there's so much that your eye doesn't know what to focus on. And that's why I always talk about like isolating your saturations and leaving the viewer's eye to where you want it to be viewed.
Yeah, and there's an exception to every rule, right? Like there are guys out there who like, all the colors are so saturated, but it's gorgeous. If you've decided that you're the kind of artist that does saturated colors on everything, then go seek out, just for reference, like the artists that do it well, so that you can kind of see the pitfalls that they avoid, and you can kind of figure out how to like make it work yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Oh man, there's a lot of questions.
Oh man.
Oh no, I feel like we're at the 100 question mark now. All right. Maybe we'll try to get through some of these a little faster.
All right.
All right. So we got like what? We got 16 minutes left. So yeah, let's try to get at least 15 more in. So maybe like a minute per question.
Oh, hot dog. All right.
All right. If you could redo one point in your art career, which would it be? Why would you change it? And how would you change it? Question for both of you.
Okay, mine is going to be my first gig at Big Huge Games. I was acting like I was still in college and did not treat the job as professionally as I should have. That's what I would have done.
Wow, wait, why weren't you treating it professionally?
Oh, I don't know. I just sort of like I would see people joke around on like the email list or whatever, and I'd like try to participate, and I wasn't really like being sensitive to the fact that like as a newcomer, like I had more to prove than these guys did, and I don't know. I just feel like I could have been a little bit more sort of sensitive uh, to that sort of dynamic.
Okay.
Anyway,
At one point in my art career, I guess any point where I felt like I was coasting, because I feel like every like 5 months I go through like a week where I just feel like I'm coasting through because I know I can, and it's a really gross feeling once the week's over, being like
yeah,
I I didn't progress as an artist. If anything, I feel like I almost regressed because I like exploited my comfort zone. So any of those times, that would be my points in my art career I would want to change.
that's a very good answer.
Thank you. Thank you, McLean.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Uh, oh man, there's so many. All right, here's a quick one from Ty asking, "How do you handle failures?"
I cry. No, no, no. I don't know. I mean, just try to learn from them. You can't if you like obsess about every failure, then like you're never going to get anything done. You're never going to get out of bed in the morning. So, I mean, treat them as learning opportunities. Like ideally, they won't happen, but if you're dealing with them, then you have failed. So just try to I don't know, just try not to let it happen again. Don't beat yourself up over it, but yeah, try not to let it happen again.
hmm I think the best advice is just know it's going to happen and don't feel like surprised or feel like, oh, how
Yeah.
like just I feel like not only in life, but I feel like as artists, problem solving is a big thing. Because when I think of like even drawing, like right now my character's color palette is kind of weird and I was trying to figure it out. But it's
Hmm.
the process of problem solving. So when you come up across a problem, you can either let it overwhelm you or you can work with it and try to fix it.
Hmm.
So I guess how do you handle failures? You should always handle it with confidence and don't let it intimidate you or break you down either.
Yeah, I can get on with that.
Um, this one's from our BK Ninja asking a random question, as Tim usually likes those. Do you make time to work out?
I do lately. I do. You wouldn't know it from seeing me for a split second on the screen earlier, but yeah, as of the last couple months, I've been going to the gym with a buddy who's been working out for I guess his whole life, and it's good. It's really difficult to like find time whenever like work is like actually like kicked into gear, but yeah, I don't know. It seems important, right? It seems important to be healthy and to like you know be ready to like live a longer life and not be fat and get I don't know complications.
No, I
uh,
totally agree.
yeah.
Do you ever feel like, because I used to have this all the time, where at the gym I would always be able to like think about what I'm gonna draw next or like get
Well,
inspired.
I don't have that because I'm there with a buddy, and so we're constantly just making like dumb small talk. Um,
Yes, the
for
gym
for
bro.
that, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But yeah, for like I find I have those moments on like long drives. That's where I get to think about stuff.
Oh yeah. I had to drive to Minnesota last year for a convention, and I remember like I wish I had a notepad next to me. Even
Yeah.
though I don't recommend driving while you or writing while you drive, but
Mhm.
I totally had like so many ideas. And are you by yourself when you're doing these long drives?
Yeah, that's the only way it can really happen.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's see here. All right, here's from Dante. What's the worst fan or follower you have both experienced either in person or online?
Um, why don't you answer that one first?
Oh boy.
I don't know if I have an answer,
worst
honestly.
fan or follower you have ever experienced? Oh, okay. There, I won't say names and I'll try to be polite, but there's this one person that would uh, call me every day,
Uh,
and they would they would send me messages on the Facebook every day, and it was one of those things where it's like I try to be polite with everyone, and I think with this person, it was the first time where I really just completely blocked talking to them. Like
uh,
I didn't know what to do. It became uncomfortable, and I think at that point, I almost feel like if you're following someone, you have to be sensible to like understand this person doesn't have all the time in the world to give to you.
yeah, I agree.
So I think that was the worst one I've ever had.
I see.
I hope they're doing
Yeah.
well though, and I don't mean any ill will, but it was
Yeah.
too much for me.
I've never like honestly found myself to be like the center of any kind of attention. So like I don't really have, as far as I'm aware, like anyone that I'd consider like fans or whatever. Like I don't know. I've never really had that experience for myself. I feel like
Really?
so. Yeah, really. Um, so, but I did have an instance one time where I posted some movie studies I was doing on like Reddit or something. So like I was just showing the process, and my process like doing studies is very mechanical. And like if you don't follow me or if you're not like familiar with my process, then like it actually does kind of look like someone just like backwards running a filter on a photo or something like that. So like I had some dude like trying to call me out on like Reddit, which was funny. Like because it's just like I, why are you gonna waste your breath? You know, like whatever,
Right.
dude. So it's not quite like that's I guess that's not quite the same thing, but it's the best answer I have.
Do you ever get like people that harp on you for your art?
Nah.
No? Oh man. I
Like
would say
what
when
do
I
you mean
first got
harp
into it,
on?
I definitely did.
What do you mean? Like what is harping on
Um,
in this case?
everyone would just give me crap that all my stuff looked like Final Fantasy or the my characters were too androgynous or like
Uh
Justin Bieber. I would get my pieces would always be called Justin Bieber.
oh wow, huh?
I'd be like, all right, okay. But I think I
Yeah.
was just so inspired by Final Fantasy and the look of it that it just kind of melted into the way I drew characters.
Did I ever show you these Final Fantasy paintings I was doing?
No.
Okay, let me bring one of those up.
What? You were doing Final Fantasy ones?
Just for
Oh man.
fun, yeah. Like okay, so do you see this one?
Oh my God, is that Ifrit?
Yeah, that's yeah, that's I'm gonna call him Ifrit because I'm comfortable saying that. But yeah, it's Ifrit, and it's Final Fantasy M, and there's my face, my ugly face. Um, and I had I posted these on like Imager or something, and I had someone be like, "Oh, these are great, except for the ugly watermark." And I'm like, "Whatever, I'm gonna keep making them worse." You know? And I did Shiva over here.
Oh my God, McLean, these are beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, these are the only two I've done, and I've got plans to do more. But
Honestly, those are my two favorite summons, anyways.
thanks. They're the classic ones, you know. But there are definitely some other ones I want to do too. So
Oh
you
man,
know, we'll
I
see.
love
It'll
that you
take me.
broke one of the arms off. The one, her
Yeah,
left. Yeah.
she's been around for a while. She's all broken and stuff. Um, yeah, so it'll take me forever to do that, I'm sure, but I'll do it eventually.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, then side
Okay,
question. What's your
question.
favorite Final Fantasy summon?
Oh shit. Or I mean, snap. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
uh, what? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Gilgamesh is pretty cool. I'm saving Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh
Um,
is a cool one.
Bahamut's been pretty cool. I'm gonna say Gilgamesh. I'm gonna change my mind later, but right this second, it's Gilgamesh.
And then, did you ever play Cydia?
No, which one was that? Was that the
Uh,
fighting game?
yeah, the Final Fantasy one.
Okay, I never played that. Wasn't that on like a handheld system?
Yeah, the
Okay,
PSP.
okay. Yeah, I never played it, but it looked interesting.
like my favorite fighting game ever,
Oh yeah?
and
Okay.
like it like totally complements all the fanboy in me of like every character, every fighter is a Final Fantasy either villain or hero. Oh man, I was sold. But Gilgamesh is one of the fighters.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and Tetsuya Nomura did a redesign of him. Wait, let me see if I can find. Ah, there he is. Hold on. Let me pull him on my screen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man, I'm a sucker for Tetsuya's designs. Even now.
I was more in high school. Like he still does like some cool things. But man, that Kingdom Hearts is so goofy.
Oh,
No
it's
pun
gotten
intended.
so strange. And what sucks is I used to be like I loved Kingdom Hearts when it first came out, but I was also
Mhm.
13.
Right. Yeah.
And like some of the new stuff, it's becoming so colorful and saturated. It's almost like no, like now that your audience is growing up, I kind of wanted the game to mature with it, but it seems to not have that effect right now.
Yeah. I've got all this like goodwill nostalgia, but then I'll go talk to my friends who like never played it, and maybe rightly so. Like all they're seeing is like Goofy with like armor or something. Like
Hmm.
it's hard to get people on board like
Oh, yeah, if you
when
didn't
they're
play it
out
when
of
you were
the age.
younger.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I can't recommend that to someone that's my age now.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like for me, I still love the game and I'll still have like my passion for it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Let's see here. Let me forget about the questions here. um, oh, this one's from our BK Ninja. Do you ever stress yourself out about how long a piece is taking you? You feel like you should be, or you just feel like you should be much further than you are, and it's not like you're focusing on a small area.
Um, I get that feeling, but I would not describe it as stressing myself out over it. I feel like man, in life, you've already got so many other things you're trying to worry about. Like worrying about the thing that's supposed to be fun is I don't know. I mean, no, personally, I don't experience stress, but I do have that feeling.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely have that like, oh, why is it like I have one piece that I've been working on for like a year on and off. It's one of those where you work on it for an hour 1 month and then like you.
That's what those Final Fantasies are for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but they turned out beautiful, so you
Thanks.
definitely didn't have the frustration. But did you go through stress of how long it was taking you?
Um, Once again, like it's not a stress thing. Like it might be like a slight embarrassment thing. Like when I'm like at a bar with some friends and someone asks me how long it took, and I fess up to like how long it took. Um,
How long did it take?
uh, well, you know what? Here's the funny thing is like that Shiva. Man, I took my sweet time on that, and from like the first sketch to the final, I probably spent like a solid work week on it, but and that's like a 40-hour work week or whatever. But the thing is like that gets stretched out over like 4 or 5 months just because like I don't know, either like I can't find the time or I'm lazy or I don't know, but it just takes forever sometimes if there's not like a real deadline on it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Mm,
All right, we'll do three more questions before the stream cuts out. So
okay,
I'll get these in really quick.
sure.
All right, someone's asking, Dante's asking, if you could only draw one thing for the rest of your careers, what would you choose?
Hmm.
I would choose
Here-
portraits or
okay.
profiles.
Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a blank or blank. I'm gonna go with monsters or girls. One or the other. I guess maybe that's a little bit
Oh, that's a
broad.
good answer. Man, some of these are so long. I'm trying to like skim through them really fast.
Right.
Okay, so from your experience, are there many girls working as concept artists?
Not as many as males, but I mean, I know like a lot of really skilled, hardworking, professional women working, and I mean, the industry, I guess, can sometimes feel like a little bit of a boys' club. Like they're just, I mean, there just are more males working in the industry right this second, it seems like. But I feel like more and more women are finding their way in. You know, like there are more women becoming like fans of the medium, be it like these quote unquote nerdy movies or you know video games or you know just all these things. And I think like they probably always have been, um, but just for whatever reason, like it's just happening more now. So yeah, I mean, I think it's changing. I think the industry is becoming more inclusive, and I think that's great because you know, I don't know how many like talents we must have missed out on like in previous years just because like the industry was so like you know like boys club. I mean, God, there's so many good working artists out there, women artists. I don't know. I'm glad they're working in the industry.
Yeah, same here. Um, all right, last question here will be the one with the most up likes, and that is from Dante, asking
Hi.
how many stages of sketching should you go through before starting to refine the drawing into a full detailed final piece?
Um, how many stages of sketching should you go through before going to a final? Well, you know, I guess it depends. It depends on where you're at, like skill wise and practice wise. Like I know some people that just uh, they just go for it, like go for the final. Like they start doing something and like that drawing just becomes the final. Like there's not really stages the way I see stages being in my own work. Um, I think instead of putting a number on it, I think you should be able to look at a sketch and like have a clear plan of what you're going to do. Now, if your sketch is a little bit more loose, but you're practiced enough to like to have that very clear plan of action in your mind, then that's fine. But you know, if you're less experienced and you're getting used to the whole thing and you need like some more time on the sketch phase in order to really figure stuff out, then that's fine. Take that time. But yeah, instead of putting a number, I would say like no, just try to figure out when you're ready, like when you know what you're gonna do, and that's probably the point at which you would more move forward into a final.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Sweet.
I think that goes down to the whole difference between concept art and illustration, where if you do an illustration piece, you might do like a couple of thumbnails of like the layout or the even the design, but then from there you kind of go into like full painting mode. Where concept art, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you could have like 10 different body sketches, but they're not dynamic or anything. But you're just
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out like the concept behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, well, oh man, so yeah, the time is already up. Like I said, these go by really fast.
Yeah, that sure did.
So I want to thank you, McLean, for doing this with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I definitely think you gave some really good insight on the questions that you were asked. So good job.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I hope everyone participating felt the same.
Yeah. So I want to thank you and thank everyone for coming. We do these every Wednesday. Next week I will be drawing with Jonathan Hamilton. Oop. Of course, my phone is on. And then the week after that, I'll be drawing with Purple Kekleon. So those will be the last two of the February live streams. And then this weekend, if any of you are in the Midwest area, I will be at Anime Milwaukee in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I will be there all weekend. So stop by and say hi if you're in the area. Hi, McLean, thanks again.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Yep, and thanks everyone for coming. See you guys.
Bye.